it's Jessica Drummond here again from the Integrative Women's Health Institute. Today I'm answering your questions about perimenopause and alcohol. So recently I posted a video about how in perimenopause, the 40s and 50s, alcohol can significantly impact our sleep. And today I want to go a bit deeper and answer one of your questions about why sometimes now, you used to be able to drink and party and go out, and now one glass of wine, you wake up with a headache. What's going on with that? So let's talk through the mechanisms so that you can make some decisions and maybe shift how and when and what you're drinking depending on what your particular hormonal issues are. So there are benefits and there are risks to drinking alcohol in perimenopause. In fact, there are some particular cardiovascular benefits to having moderate amounts of alcohol, about 1 drink per day for women. And that's a 5-ounce glass of wine, not a bottle of wine, glass of wine. So be mindful of that. But let's talk about what's going on with your hormones and what's going on with your liver. We'll get to that in a second, but I get this other question all the time. Why do I need to detox? Doesn't my liver just sit around doing that for me, right? We would like that too, but we have to give the liver some support. So naturally, in perimenopause, there is an estrogen decline in terms of secretion of estrogen from the ovaries. You still have estrogen. It actually doesn't go all the way down to 0 and beyond. You're still going to end up with some estrogen, even into menopause and beyond, because estrogen can be made from conversion of androgens, which, we think of androgens primarily, the kind of most famous androgen is testosterone, and that can be converted to estrogen in our peripheral tissues and also from the adrenal glands by an enzyme called aromatase. So through the perimenopause and menopause transition, you have this decline in estrogen, but notice it's not this straight decline, right? It's not this drop and then you stay at a steady level in menopause. It fluctuates. We talked about perimenopause being essentially the reverse of puberty, and that, in puberty you get an increase in estrogen over time, but it's fits and starts, right? So when you're going into puberty, you don't have an immediately perfect, regular cycle. It takes some time for that to regulate. Same thing happens in perimenopause. You'll have dips in estrogen, rises in estrogen, and you have the normal cyclical drops and rises in estrogen that occur throughout the menstrual cycle anyway. So it's a little bit difficult to predict how much estrogen you're going to be dealing with on any given day. Now, and it's actually really impossible to predict that unless you're going to be, constantly monitoring your estrogen levels with saliva testing or something like that all the time. And that's, not likely to happen or practical in any way. But in general, there is some hormonal testing that you can do to see if you tend to be more estrogen dominant or have lower, more depleted levels of estrogen. And estrogen, women who are estrogen dominant may actually have estrogen levels that are too low, but then their progesterone levels are really low. So estrogen dominance is a measure of estrogen in ratio with progesterone. So you want your estrogen and progesterone ratio to be nice and balanced. If your progesterone is really low, even if your estrogen is moderately low, you can still be estrogen dominant. So we'll get to that in a minute. So interestingly, alcohol increases aromatase. It's an aromatase activator. And so it can increase this conversion of testosterone to estrogen, which is potentially one of the reasons why alcohol can be cardioprotective, because higher levels of estrogen are more heart healthy. Higher levels of estrogen, however, also give you a headache more. And what's challenging about looking at the literature is that most alcohol is aromatase, supportive, increases levels of aromatase activation. However, red wine, which is what we often think of when we're talking about reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease, is actually an aromatase inhibitor. Grapes, grape juice, and red wine, not white wine, inhibit this conversion of aromatase to estrogen. So you end up with lower levels of estrogen. Again, potentially protective for breast cancer. So in breast cancer, you want lower levels of estrogen. In cardiovascular disease, you want relatively higher levels of estrogen to be protective. Now that's oversimplifying things quite a bit, but consider your history. If you are, if you are a survivor of breast cancer, or you have a lot of breast cancer in your family, then any alcohol at all that's increasing this estrogen amount could be dangerous for you. So even one drink a day may not be great. It might increase your risk for breast cancer, unless, of course, that drink is red wine. In that case, moderate amount of red wine may be protective. So it's confusing, right? So you have to know more about yourself than the alcohol, because it's not really about, every woman should have 1 glass of red wine a day. Every woman with a cardiovascular or breast cancer risk needs to think carefully about what kind of alcohol she's drinking and how much and when. Also, don't forget, we've got these fluctuations going on in the background. So one day you might wake up feeling perfectly fine. You had a relatively high level of estrogen maybe because of just the hormone fluctuations that are happening in perimenopause. You had 1 glass of white wine that maybe, actually you had 1 glass of red wine, which maybe decreased your estrogen levels a bit and brought you into a nice balanced range without you knowing it. Another day you might have had a glass of white wine, which made your estrogen levels worse, and higher estrogen can give you a headache. So that's why some women get PMS headaches with high estrogen, or with a precipitous drop in estrogen. The shift in estrogen can also increase headaches. So again, if you are inhibiting this conversion, you're having red wine and you're inhibiting that conversion, your estrogen level is maybe already low down here, then you convert less androgen into estrogen because you've inhibited that aromatase, possibly an estrogen headache because of the estrogen drop. So what's the practical recommendation? How do we figure this out? We'll get to that in a minute. And here's the thing. I want you to step back for a minute, take a deep breath, because this is a little bit complex information, and think, do I get a headache every time I drink? Do I get a headache with different kinds of alcohol? Does it depend what time that I drink? Because of what we talked about before with the alcohol interacting with cortisol and insulin might be inhibiting high quality sleep for you. And know that alcohol aren't the only substances that influence the estrogen levels, because things like grapeseed extract and mushrooms, even just the white button mushrooms, are also aromatase inhibitors. That's why these things are known to be cancer protective. So there are a lot of pieces to this puzzle, and so individually we have to navigate this for you and your clients, so that, because there really is not one blanket recommendation of how much alcohol and what kinds of alcohol any given woman should drink at any given time. But the more you understand about your body, and the more you understand about how alcohol interacts with insulin, cortisol, and estrogen and androgens, you can make decisions about when and how much you want to drink based on the consequences. Now, there's another factor. Let's talk about the liver. So detoxification is clearly involved, because alcohol itself is a physiologic toxin. It's rough on the liver. The liver has to metabolize it and excrete it. So, which is, again, in moderate amounts, perfectly fine if your liver is healthy. But for the liver, so this is my beautiful rendition, this green rendition of a liver. The liver, to function adequately, needs nutrients. So you have to step back and say, what is my food plan? Am I absorbing the nutrients on a day-to-day basis that my liver needs to function to process the alcohol? And so here's how detoxification works in a quick nutshell. In your liver, toxins come into the liver, right? Think of the liver as like this giant metabolizing machine. Toxins come into the liver through the bloodstream, and they go through a process called phase 1 detoxification. Then you have this intermediate molecule. So you have the toxin molecule, then you have this intermediate molecule. Unfortunately, sometimes phase 1 detoxification, the process, makes that molecule more toxic, and it can be actually damaging to the liver. So we need a couple of things. First of all, to convert the toxin into the intermediate molecule, you need certain nutrients. You need B vitamins, glutathione. By the way, glutathione is one of the most powerful antioxidants in the world, and it's very liver protectant. Anytime I'm going to be drinking at all, and in fact, most days, I always take some glutathione in advance of that, early that morning, that evening, the next day, both, all three, But again, you have to check with yourself and your healthcare professionals to make sure there's some reason that you shouldn't take glutathione, or perhaps you need a certain kind of glutathione. So, again, I'm not just making a blanket supplement recommendation, but I want you to understand that glutathione is an essential antioxidant to have to protect your liver if you're going to be drinking at all. And I certainly do not recommend completely against drinking. I drink alcohol myself and enjoy it from time to time. So again, no blanket recommendations. But for this process to work well, you need all of these nutrients: branched chain amino acids, flavonoids, phospholipids, right? So are you eating enough vegetables? Are you getting the micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals that you need to support the liver? Now, to protect the liver, when these intermediates are in the liver, and like I said, sometimes they're even more toxic than the original toxin and can be damaging to the liver, we have to have adequate antioxidants to protect the liver. And antioxidants are like vitamin C, vitamin E, glutathione, flavonoids, things that are in fruits and vegetables, right? And the number one, okay, here's a blanket recommendation I can make, unless possibly you have a complex digestive disease: eat 8 to 10 servings of vegetables day in and day out. That is key for everything. Okay, there's one blanket recommendation for you. Again, unless you have a complicated digestive issue, then we'll talk. Okay, eat more vegetables. They protect the liver, or taking antioxidants supplementation. Then in phase 2, we take that intermediate molecule, which was made more toxic, other times less toxic. It still has to be converted again to be in a form that we can actually excrete. So to do that, to have the nutrients we need to excrete these molecules, we need basically amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. Again, oversimplified, but what that tells me is that, okay, doing a detox, like where you're only drinking raw juices and you're having almost no protein, is not ideal, right? These crazy master cleanses and 100 days of only juice, don't do that, because you then get your toxins stuck in this intermediate phase. You don't have the protein building blocks that you need to transfer them or convert them to things that actually can be excreted out of your body. So your liver is actually being sort of harmed. It's being stressed. So now, there are exceptions. If you are very healthy and every once in a while you need a digestive rest and you just want to drink juice, there are spiritual aspects to fasting and juice fasting that are perfectly fine for people that are quite healthy. But it's not the place to start if you've been drinking a lot of alcohol and eating fast food, right? That's not the place to start, is like a giant juice fast. We need protein to complete the process. And sometimes that's just broths and soups. You can do a detoxification program that includes, nut milks and nut butters and, fish and broth. It doesn't have to be that you have to be eating steaks and burgers to detox, because there are some carcinogens there too in some cases. But what we want to do is be mindful of extreme situations. We want to really understand this process so we can support it on a day-to-day basis, rather than just like eating like crap all the time, feeling terrible all the time, and think that a 3 or 7 or 30-day detox is going to do anything. It's, you'll feel good for a while perhaps, but you're probably going to feel worse before you feel better, because you're going to be stressing your liver. So I know this is a lot early in the morning, so take a deep breath. And let me show you how I can help you navigate this for you, because it's really not that complicated when you put it into the context of your own life, your own risk factors, your own goals, and how you're feeling right now and what you have time to do. So we are offering our Hormone Balance program. Hormone Balance is a program that we generally offer for you to do on your own anytime you would like. We walk through the steps. We focus on nutrition, which balances all of this, sleep, which I talked about last time, nutrition, sleep, and right sizing your exercise, which I've also talked about recently. We don't want to overdo it, but we also don't want to underdo exercise in perimenopause either. We've got to protect our bones, build our strength, and be mindful of our relatively sensitive stress responses compared with men. So normally that program is always available. You can find it on our website. I'll post the link. But in about a week and a half, we are going to be very soon doing this with my support. And so we will meet as a group in Zoom meetings. I will meet with you in 4 meetings, and I'll detail all of this in the post below here. We will meet together. We'll be walking through the program, but you'll have my support so you can actually figure this out, answer these questions, and apply them to your body so that we can help you to resolve any symptoms you're struggling with in this perimenopausal period. So you'll have the program, you'll have my support, and I'm throwing in a little bonus because I actually really do like wine and chocolate. I created a small chocolate company, and we're going to throw in 4 bars of our new Nourier chocolate. And because chocolate, dark chocolate anyway, is an antioxidant, and we have added to that chocolate collagen, which contains, which is a good source of glutamine and some other of these amino acids. I created a liver supportive chocolate. Yum! So I want you to try that, because it's all part of a healthy lifestyle, and feeling that you can live with pleasure, with gusto, and still be healthy and not be like, oh my gosh, every time I have a glass of wine, I wake up with a headache. If that's always the case, maybe wine is not for you, but maybe you just need to learn how to integrate wine and chocolate into your healthy, hormonally balanced, joy-filled, pleasure-filled 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. We tried this program with women into their 70s. So from 35 to well into the 70s is where this program fits. That's the ideal age. If you're outside of that age range, ask me a question in this post, shoot me an email, and we'll see. But it's been very beneficial, and we are continuously collecting data. You'll have some questionnaires to fill out to make sure that this program is effective. Because I'm all about the science and the research, and I like to publish stuff because it helps my colleagues learn. All right, so any questions you have, ask me in the comments below, and take a deep breath. Know that I'm here to support you. We're going to help you balance your hormones and support your liver in the context of a fun, pleasurable, and joy-filled life. Have a great day. Bye.